Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Sam.
Hang on a second. No, you're not. I'm Sam.
You're supposed to say no, and I'm Matt. Anyway, I'm Matt, and that's Sam.
You can't just throw things out like that. I am not.
Apparently not.
I am not trained in the arts of theater. Okay, I never took an improv class.
Yes,
okay,
that I learned that in my fourth year, second semester of theater, to use someone else's name.
Wow.
Yes.
How dare you.
But yeah, so here we are, season 2, episode 4 of Lost. It's called Everybody Hates Hugo.
Horrible title. Absolutely horrible.
I know. It makes sense for the episode though.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
in this episode, we see Hurley worries that his new job will cause everyone to hate him. That's why it makes sense. But meanwhile, the Rafties discover that their captors are actually other survivors from Oceanic 815.
Is that the proper use for that? Rafties?
I don't know. That's what I call them.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you call them. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more sense now.
I mean, even though they're not on a raft anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah. Not anymore.
Yeah.
But, sailors are still sailors, even if they're on land.
All right. So, yeah, rafties.
Yeah. Rafties.
Well, you already kind of teased it a little bit just as we were setting up, but what did you think of this episode? How do you feel?
It's a great episode. Absolutely great. Loved it. Phenomenal. I cried at the end. So good. It's just the emotional gut punch that you need to start your Friday off. And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
I think this is the first time in Lost Legacy's history where I have differing opinions.
Oh, you don't like this episode?
Usually I really dig an episode and you have thoughts. This is opposite. No, I mean, I thought it was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
The good part of it, it really reminds me of like early season 1. This episode was all about the details, all about we talked about it. How are we going to find water? How are we going to find shelter? Those are the little details that really add life to the island and the plight that these survivors are in, because there's all this creepy stuff going on, but they also have to worry about like, where am I sleeping tonight? So this episode kind of feeds into that. Like, okay, now we have this storeroom full of food. How are we going to make it last? And although that's not what the episode's really about in the long run, I did like that it addressed that. And I like the way it resolves itself at the end, which we could talk about, I guess, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I don't like about it is that nothing's really progressing. Like it really feels like a season 1 episode where there isn't a lot of plot to progress. It's kind of just survival. It's just people surviving, and then we get some good backstory.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we have the hatch now. We have the other camp of survivors, and it still feels like the plot isn't really moving forward. It's still stagnated a bit.
Yeah. This is definitely a filler episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's exactly what you said. It's like there's not a lot of character progression. There's not even a lot of plot progression. This is just, it is one of those key things where it's like, okay, this is the thing where we have to figure out how people are going to get food. Are we going to tell people about the food? All that. And it creates that moral conundrum, but that's not as expansive as everything else that's going on. It's just a minor part of the problem. Because the main thing is that like it's all Hurley, and Hurley is worried about people turning on him because he's seen that before, and we see that with the flashbacks, that this was his life before everything changed with the lottery ticket. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think I'm mostly okay with it. One, because the episode is as good as it is. Hurley is as good as he is. as a character. And I also think it's fine because the last couple of episodes have been so plot heavy. And what episode is this? Is it 4?
4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is episode 4. The last 3 episodes, we got like a repeat of the sequences of events about them finding the hatch, and them discovering the hatch and everything about it, and the Desmond thing. We just got that like full repeat for like the last 3 episodes, and that really came to a head last week. So this time this is the breather. It's like, okay, not everybody knows about the hatch, but the people that do are now doing different things with it. Jack's trying to figure stuff out. Locke is kind of just going in and out and then checking out the guns. And his job is to convince everybody, to start pushing the button, to start typing the numbers. And Hurley's his inventory. And I think this is, it's probably not the best episode, but it's not really progressing plot at all, but it's kind of integral, I think, for Hurley and his relationship to the hatch. Because while I still think he's conflicted about the numbers, I think he was more conflicted about there being this situation where there's a limited supply of food and I'm the one in charge of it. And if I start telling people no, everybody's going to turn on me, Whereas by the end, we realize that it's okay now. Hurley probably made the best decision.
I just feel like we're 4 episodes into season 2, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like season 1 ended so strong, and then to another, like, not a lesser extent, but an equal extent, season 2 started really strong. But now I feel like we're kind of staying in place a bit. And it's not just this episode. It's the fact that the first 3 episodes were just one long episode, and like, I kind of wish the pacing would stay going, but we already know studios, they kind of wanted to drag Lost out. Also, this is like a 24 episode season or something like that. So I get it. I don't know if this is just I'm probably thinking about this because, it's a 2021 mindset of like whatever storytelling I'm used to seeing. But I would have preferred, like, you could have done the first 3 episodes like as 2. It didn't have to be 3 episodes long. I think an easy way to do it was to cut the Rafties out of it. First 2 episodes is just about the hatch. And then episode 3 we go to the raft crew, see what happens to them. Because I mean, they're not in the first episode. We see them in the second, but I guess maybe they didn't want to go too many weeks without resolving that or without seeing those characters.
Yeah,
but
probably
I think
not.
That would help because right now I feel like a lot is happening, but we're not really. It kind of seems like we're just kind of sweeping it along the story, because, well, let's just jump to one of like the B or C plots of this episode. Claire finds the bottle that they took with them on the raft with, all the their messages home and stuff like that. And it's very short. The next scene we see her and Shannon give the bottle to Sun because they said you should deserve or you should be the one to decide what to do with this, And then at the end we see Sun is burying it. She's not telling anyone about it.
Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, they're really good scenes. It was well written, well acted, but I felt like that should have been, to me, that feels more important than Hurley's struggle in the hatch. You see what I mean? The Rafties dealing with, oh crap, the other survivors from Oceanic 815. That to me seems more important than what Hurley's going through.
Mm.
So I don't know. I mean,
I I
it's
can see what
tricky.
I can see what you're saying, and I'll agree with you. I still think Hurley's struggle is important, but I
Right.
think if it had been written better, I think if it had come
Mm-hmm.
across better, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like a lot of that is because we hadn't seen other people
Mm-hmm.
in it featured significantly within the last couple of episodes, and so we had to start like bringing some people in. You know, I didn't really dig any of Charlie's scenes this episode,
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
and I feel like if you took whatever time was allotted for that and gave more of an exploration of what Hurley's going through, and it isn't just like talked about like kind of right towards the very end of the episode, I I think it maybe would have I, I think his struggle would have been uh shown in a better way. It would have been pulled off in a better way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, just from what we have here, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I understand what he's going through. I feel sorry for him. But I do agree with you that, yeah, like especially now that we have all of these different pieces to the same puzzle that we didn't necessarily know were part of the same puzzle. And now it's like, oh, okay, now what's going to happen, you know? So like is the bottle going to come up again at some point? We don't know, but Sun is going to have to be the one to reckon with that. And then we have the other survivors of 815 living in another hatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And their numbers are smaller. There's
Yeah.
only like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
So let me say this
okay.
because I know I'm kind of sounding down on the episode,
Yeah.
but this is probably the first time in our this rewatch for me where I completely like this episode kept surprising me. Moment after moment, I was like, oh wow. Oh wow. You know, so it is a good episode. I just I guess I just completely forgot about. I don't know, but this is the first time like this feels good because season one I've seen this twice already, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
but season one just kind of sticks with me more.
Mm-hmm.
So watching this, like I had fun. I was like, okay, this is interesting. So my problem is more kind of just like pacing issues and where they choose to focus. But I think it was a good episode, and I was definitely surprised. Even the opening scene, Hurley's in the pantry. He's listening to music,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out it's a dream. I was like, oh, okay, because we see on the milk carton a missing child photo, and it's Walt. I was like, what?
I completely did not catch that.
What? You missed that? Oh, Sam. Are you watching in full screen?
Yeah, I'm watching it on my TV.
Oh, big screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's straight up drinking the milk and Walt's on the milk carton. I had to pause and I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. How does what? And I kept watching. I'm like, oh, it's a dream. No wonder, because Jen shows up speaking perfect English, and then a man in a chicken suit shows up. I'm like, yeah, this is totally a dream. Um, I thought that was a cool opening.
Yeah. There's a lot in this episode that just feels I don't know how to describe it other than like it just feels very lost. And I really I just really like it. Like the opening. I thought that
Mhm.
opening was really good. It is, you know, it's like, oh, okay, like this is a dream sequence, you know, this is, you know, and it's also following like that weird like dream logic of like this doesn't make sense. How do you know that? How am I speaking this language? How are you
Oh
here?
yeah. Oh yeah.
What's the guy in the chicken suit
I-
doing? And it's that specific guy who doesn't even show up until the end of Hurley's
yeah.
flashback. So there's that sequence that I really loved.
I love that when he tells Jen, he's like, dude, you're speaking English.
No,
No,
Hurley.
Hurley, you're
You're
speaking
speaking
Korean.
Korean.
I was like, oh, dude.
um, so there's that, and then I really, for some reason, I really liked the scene where Hurley and his friend in his flashback.
Oh, DJ Qualls. Remember that
Yeah,
guy?
yes, I remember DJ
Man.
Qualls. Yeah, he and DJ Qualls steal a bunch of garden gnomes, go to their former manager's house, and spell with the garden gnomes, "cluck you."
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, that just feel I don't know if it feels very Lost or it just feels very like Lindelof, but it
Oh, yeah.
feels like a Damon Lindelof thing.
Yeah. This is our first like mid flashback because we saw this last season where he wins the lotto and we see everything that happens, but we don't see this part after he finds out that he wins to actually like revealing that he wins, so we never really got that part. But I love that they brought his mom back for that one scene when he falls down. Hugo. What she says? What did she say?
Very much like a Mexican mother. If you pray to Jesus, maybe Jesus will take 20 pounds from you and find you a good woman
and
give you a new car.
Yeah, the phone's. Oh, I bet that's Jesus now. Oh, dude, I loved it. So yeah, he's working at what was do you remember what it was called? It's like a chicken place.
Yeah, I don't know.
El Pollo Loco. I don't know.
It's not El Pollo Loco.
I don't know. What was the one from Breaking Bad? I don't remember. Anyway, it's not that one either.
What is it? Is it Cluckities?
Have a cluckety cluck day.
Mr. Cluckities? I feel like it was something like that.
Yeah. Did you recognize his boss?
He looks really familiar. Who is it?
That's Randy. That's Locke's boss.
That's Locke's boss?
Yeah. Except Locke's boss, Randy had a goatee in that one. This other one, he doesn't. So I'm trying to think of like the timeline because in Locke's flashback, that seemed like modern day because he was going on the walkabout right before the crash. So that kind of gives a little bit of timeline here.
Okay.
So well, I guess that makes sense because we saw in Hurley's flashbacks last season, he had the money, he bought the house, he had all these businesses. So at some point, Hurley's working for Randy at the chicken place. Hurley wins the lotto, and Randy ends up becoming the manager of a box company somewhere with Locke. So time has passed. Hurley's basically, he's had that money for a while. That's the vibe I'm getting now. We weren't really sure last season because his flashback, you could tell it was kind of jumping.
Yeah. Hurley's flashback in the first season did sort of like jump through time a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I guess I can see that. That's interesting. I didn't catch that. I mean, I guess that does connect because that was part of the thing that I think his lawyer or his financier was talking to him about how did he say like a box company? He mentioned something about a box company.
You own a box company in somewhere. Like, that's funny. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. It's like it's Hurley is now technically Randy's boss.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Interesting.
So yeah, Hurley keeps eating chicken, man. I mean, I love me some fried chicken, but not as much as Hurley. He ate an 8-piece of fried chicken on the clock. So this whole time they don't really explain why, but he wins the lottery and he doesn't want to tell anybody about it. And the only reason we kind of get the vibe is because we're seeing what's happening in modern day. But we know that Hurley has this fear that things are going to change. We don't know where that comes from, and that's never answered in this episode.
Yeah.
So, but he ends up quitting his job, and he spends the day with DJ Qualls.
As one would.
Yeah, and they're just like having fun, like running around. They went to a record store where we meet Hurley's crush. I forgot what her name was.
Starla.
But she's played, I don't know how to say her name, so I'm going to guess. She's played by Marguerite Moreau? I tried.
Okay, you tried.
Very French looking. There's a lot of U's and O's in there and EA's. But she is like the main girl in Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh, that's where I recognize her from. Okay.
And she was the cute one. She was my crush in The Mighty Ducks.
Okay,
I
yeah,
completely, yeah.
Oh my
I guess
goodness.
I never really realized it when I was watching it. But
Yeah.
going through it now, I was like, oh, that's her.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, this episode aired 16 years ago. Yeah, that was mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Wet Hot American Summertime. So she was probably her late 20s. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, Hurley's in love. And he even alludes to asking her out before things change.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, we don't know why he has this fear, but it is revealed at the end. He even tells his buddy, he's like, let's just promise that things are never going to change between us. Sure enough, they stop for gas, and there's a news crew, and they're talking about someone won the lottery. It's bukus of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And they see Hurley, and like, that's the guy. And you can see his friend just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's kind of like a look of betrayal, or like, why didn't you tell me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can kind of understand, like, okay, things did change for Hurley. So his fear is legit,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know really where it came from because he was already afraid of that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's an interesting parallel because he is afraid of change on the island. I mean, that's straight up what Jin told him in his dream. He's like, things are going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, he ends up kind of losing it, and he's about to blow up all the food with dynamite. So things kind of escalated fast.
Mm-hmm.
But he's stopped. By who? Fan favorite, Sam. Rose. Rose is back.
Mm-hmm.
When we first see her, I was like, oh, yes, it's Rose.
I know. I was like, dang, it's about time.
Yeah, I haven't seen her like in a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So it was cool to have her back. And I think that was some of the strongest part of the episode, because Hurley she's the only one he's telling about the hatch. So he takes her down there looking around, and I love seeing it through her eyes. Like, she's kind of like weirded out about it. But I don't know, there's just something comforting about having her down there with him, like a sense of safety.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I miss Rose.
I missed her too. Yeah. I'm glad she's back.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully she sticks around for a little bit more,
Yeah.
Maybe she pops up a couple more times this season.
Well, let's talk about Rose for a second, because there's a big reveal at the very end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband Bernard's still alive.
Yep.
He's one of the other survivors that the Rafties run into. I was like, oh man, that's such a cool moment,
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't tell them, but we as the audience knows, because like he was asking about Rose, and he's like, yeah, she's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the moment where you cried?
Yeah.
I gotta admit, I got emotional too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the episode was good and all, but that last scene, and you just see Bernard's reaction, I'm like, oh dude. I'm so happy.
I was like, I was pretty happy with like, okay, we're this ending montage where Hurley's giving out food and everybody's happy. And Charlie gives Claire the peanut butter, and it's the real peanut butter. I'm like, good
nice
callback. Because
nice callback.
The thing, yeah, totally. Jack and Kate are like playing with each other's food, and Locke doesn't know what to do with all the food. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Everybody's patting Hurley on the back. I was like, okay, this is good. I'm glad everybody actually doesn't hate Hugo. And then we get to, the stinger at the end, the final scene where Bernard tells, Michael and all them that he's Bernard, and he asks about Rose. Mm-hmm. And that just got to me because he's crying. He's like, thank you. And they're there. And I'm just like, That's right. Oh, and then the very last scene is Rose holding the Apollo bar, the chocolate bar, which she told Hurley that my husband has a sweet tooth. Every teeth in that man's mouth is sweet. And she puts the chocolate in her pocket. And I was like, that's right, Rose. You save that candy bar for your husband. He's alive. You're gonna share it. And yeah, that was that was a mess.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So Hurley's solution is to basically give the food to everyone.
Let's talk about that. I think I disagree.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, because obviously we know that rescue isn't coming for them, because we've seen this. But if you told me there was a bunker on this island that we've been stranded on for 40 plus days, and sure, computer, whatnot, whatever, weird electromagnet stuff, there's a pantry. All right. Like, we still don't know, like, is Locke isn't still going out to hunt boar. He told somebody, I think he told Jack, that the boar moved on, a while ago. So okay, there's that. Close to the end of last season, Saeed and Shannon are having like a whole charcuterie board of fruit and stuff, and I'm just like, where did all that come from? Where did it go? Did they eat it all? I hope they did. But yeah, so it's like, okay, where is the food? How are they still alive? Yeah, and Claire just had her baby. There are all these things that we are going to need, and I think this pantry shows up. It's like, that's kind of a blessing. It's kind of a miracle.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with Hurley that everybody's gonna be fighting over the thing, but it's like, if we still try and keep ourselves civil, then yeah, we can make sure that this pantry stays pretty stocked, and we can ration that out.
But that's what he's telling Jack at the end. He even tells me, he's like, dude, there's food for one man to eat 3 meals a day for 3 months. They have 40 people.
Yeah,
it's not gonna last. Which, okay, I understand that. I'm like, I still think there should be some kind of to save something,
And it doesn't look like all of the food got distributed. Like, it looks like a lot of it did.
But you could also tell a lot of that stuff is like mayo.
Yeah.
Like, well, what the hell am I going to do with this?
That's true. So probably those were like the first things to go, were like the actual meals.
Yeah, and chocolate candy. Yeah. Sure, that first night they're probably grubbing on it. And then they'll probably slowly go through it. But like, no one's going to be given this to survive.
That's true.
So a jar of pickles. I mean,
can find stuff to eat.
Can you survive on pickles? Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can.
It's sustenance. I mean, yeah. Like, can you survive on chocolate? No, but it's sustenance. If you portion it out, then yeah. Your stomach's not going to be happy, but also your stomach isn't already happy because you've been stranded for 40 days and aren't eating your regular, meals. Your body's already changing. Of course, this is all, pedantic because, they're not thinking about this in TV land.
Well, that's an interesting point, because you have to think about that. Enough food for one man to eat 3 meals a day for 3 months. Desmond was there for years. So how is he getting food?
Oh, that's a good point.
You see, and this is kind of the thing with Lost, which I think often gets overlooked. It's those details. It's like, how is he getting food? Hurley, they purposely wrote Hurley that line for a reason, to put that knowledge out there. That's another mystery. Is Dharma still feeding him? Are they sending him food? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
If he's still being fed or given supplies, because he also has that medicine and stuff. So it's not just food, So is he getting restocked somehow? without seeing anyone because he hasn't seen anybody in years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of like slowly building that scenario in the world. Like, okay, is Dharma still a thing? I don't know. We see the other hatch that the other survivors are in. That place was like wrecked.
Yeah.
No one's been there in a long time.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But as far as the other stuff, like with the rafties, I mean, it's kind of just the same. We didn't really get more. Well, we did get more info, but most of it was just Sawyer and Ana Lucia bumping heads.
Mm-hmm.
Do what I say when I say it and don't talk or I'll kill you. But I'm a Southern con guy, sexy man. We have unexplored sexual tension already, or we're just going to kill each other. We'll find out.
And that, our dear viewers, is a sneak preview of my brother's one-man stage adaptation of season 2 of Lost.
Mm-hmm. But let's not forget, we've seen Ana Lucia before, and she was in Jack's flashback, and they were very flirty.
They were very flirty.
So there's already this Jack, Sawyer, Kate triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Is this now like a Sawyer, Jack, Ana Lucia triangle?
I think it's a diamond.
A diamond?
Kate's a diamond.
Yeah. Kate and Ana Lucia. Who knows, man?
Yeah, they're on opposing sides, but Jack and Sawyer are square in the middle, and it's like, okay, like Jack and Kate, they could be a thing. Jack and Ana Lucia, they could be a thing. Sawyer and Kate have already kissed, so like that's pretty huge. But this girl just like kicked Sawyer's ass, and I think he's kind of into it. So who knows?
Speaking of Jack, Jack and Saeed, and this is kind of goes back to what I was saying about earlier about things kind of like just moving slow. Jack and Saeed pretty much, they're just kind of trying to find out what's behind the cement. There's some kind of magnet and they want to get to it and they can't. So they end up going through the vents. And what did they find? More cement. That's it. We're literally the same place we were last week.
Well, true, except we've got a couple more pieces to it because Saeed says that there's only one thing that comes to mind when he sees that there's more cement and he remembers it being poured this way. That's Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So that right there is a red flag. Like, okay, whatever is behind.
So why are you trying to get in, Saeed?
I mean, going down there confirms his suspicion. So it's like, okay, if we can't get into it, maybe that's a good thing. Yeah. However, if this thing is nuclear and it meltdowns, what is that going to mean for us?
Yeah.
And yeah, like, cause it's another piece of the mystery. Like, we don't know what the electromagnet is. We don't know what the computer does. We don't know what pushing the button does other than it just resets the clock. Why is there this thick concrete, hiding this electromagnet? So all of that is like, okay, so technically you're right. Yeah, we're still kind of in the same place.
Just a little more context.
Yeah. Like the space is a little bit more three-dimensional. Yeah. It's a little bit more lived in. And we've got the pipes that are extremely hot. And that's not just a way to lure Jack into a scene where he kind of stares a little too long at Kate.
That was very awkward.
Up her shower. Yeah, I was like, Jack, she's in the, like, you gotta close the door when you see somebody's taking the shower. Don't just
grown ass man. You should at least be able to play it off, because it was an accident. It was a total accident.
Yeah,
but then he stays looking at her.
Yeah,
talking to her. She's not even diverting his gaze or anything.
Yeah, and she's obviously like, okay, hide myself in the towel and pick up my clothes. Oh, yeah. I dropped something, and like he's just still there looking. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of creepy, dude.
You took a shower, Kate?
It's not a bad Matthew Fox impression. You could be his stunt double. You'd be a stand-in.
Yeah. So for all you kids who are listening to our podcast, watching Lost, and who are young, because you're a kid, I'm sure there's at least one out there, go watch the spin-off show Chernobyl on HBO Max. You'll get a good hint at what they were talking about.
No.
The ultimate Lost tie-in.
Wow. So wait, hang on. Does this mean that like Hawaii Five-O is also a tie-in?
It could be. Maybe another life, because a lot of the cast has shown up, if not were regulars on Hawaii Five-O.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that's just going to be a thing. Like all roads lead back to Lost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. Well, what else? Well, let's see. What else do we got? What else can we talk about? I feel like we talked about all the epic stuff. That was kind of
yeah. I mean, like it's kind of like we've been saying. This episode just really did recontextualize certain things that are happening. We now know for a fact that the Rafties are with the other survivors of 815.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of like a weight off our shoulders. Like, okay, because we're not exactly sure what was happening.
Yeah. So we at least know that. We even got some names. You know, we already knew. Like we got Libby and we got Bernard at the end.
Well, yes, and Libby. I think they say there's 23 survivors. When they get to the second hatch, you know, he asked her, "I thought you said there's 23 of you." There were. Well, crap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of puts Ana Lucia's actions and attitude in perspective. Because before I'm just like, oh god, just of course they're casting Michelle Rodriguez as the tough girl, but now you're kind of seeing it. You're like, oh, they lost a lot of people, not just a few, not just one or two, not just Scott,
yeah,
but they lost a lot of people if there's only 4 of them left. I don't know if they actually said it, because there was a few people there. It's a handful. It's more than 4, but I'm willing to bet they lost probably about at least 15 people. Because I mean, you could probably count the other survivors on one hand. I don't think there was more than 5.
Okay.
That I saw. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's interesting too. I was when that happens, you know, when Libby said there were 23 of us. It kind of reminded me of Battlestar. And just sort of thinking that like, yeah, like this is sort of interesting. Like there's already a lot of similarities between Lost and Battlestar, but it's kind of cool to see like this is kind of a similar plot of season 2 of Battlestar Galactica, where we get the other survivors of the Cylon attack on the Pegasus, and they're all hardened because
it's the same year.
It's the same year?
Yeah, 2005 through 6. That was season 2 of Battlestar.
That's crazy. It's so interesting. Like that, both writers' rooms must have been on like the same wavelength or something, because this is kind of essentially the same thing. Like these other survivors, they had to build a hole in the ground, a prison.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know, and I like it's not called out, but everybody who's out. So it's Ana Lucia, Libby, and I already know his name. He hasn't said it yet, but I know that's Mr. Echo. They all have like giant tree trunks. They all have like giant tree limbs.
Yeah, they're armed. They have weapons.
Yeah, they're armed. So I'm like, okay, why do they have to be armed? You know, and just on top of the fact that they've lost a bunch of people, like it just feels very much like the Pegasus storyline when they come in and it's like, yeah, they're battle hardened.
We've had it rougher than the main cast.
Exactly. And it's like the main cast, it's not been a picnic for them either.
Yeah.
You know, but they're
living like, in paradise, man.
They're the crew of the Enterprise, where they get
filming
to go
in Hawaii.
The cool adventure. Like, oh, look at this. We found a cool boat. Like, what does this do?
Yeah.
You know, somebody's baby got stolen. What the hell?
Yeah.
You know,
these other survivors are like filming in like this hot set that's covered in dirt. You know, it's like, oh man, like, yeah, you could tell they've had it rough.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting parallel between the two shows.
So essentially, what's going to happen if we look at Battlestar? Because Battlestar was technically earlier because it was a summer show. So season 2 aired like in July or whatever. So these new survivors are going to come in. Ana Lucia is going to try and take charge. Everything's going to go out of control. They're going to end up infighting. Both group of survivors are going to fight. It's going to be a civil war. And then they're going to threaten each other like, okay, should I kill Ana Lucia? Should I kill Jack? It's for the betterment of our people. And then in the end, they resolve their differences. They decide to work together. And the Cylons are going to come and kill Ana Lucia.
Exactly.
The Cylons are the others. There we go.
Yeah. I can see that. Which means if we
and then you still have a second half of Battlestar, you know,
which is why I was going to say we're going to go even further, and at some point they're going to get to what they think is the mainland, and it's just another island.
It's just another island,
but it's devastated,
and they're going to have to have an election.
Oh yeah, you got to have an election. Who is president of the island?
I know exactly.
It's a good question.
Well, I think that's what Locke and Jack are duking it out for right now.
Yeah,
they're not saying it.
Seems like it.
Well, it was fun, even though I had some thoughts about it. I had a fun time.
Yeah,
it's a good episode. I think it was a great story for Hurley. It kind of builds on his story, his backstory for last season, and it adds more to his character. You know, so I really enjoyed it. We'll see what happens next. All right, MVPs.
My boy Hugo.
Gotta go.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Or Garcia. He's great. I love him. He's able to to emote like a pain in him with just using like a couple of lines and just like his eyes, and I'm like, man, why do things got to change? Why do things have to change?
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna go with L. Scott Caldwell, who plays Rose.
It's a good choice. It
was really cool. It was nice to actually have her as like a guest star, I guess. Because for the most part, she's only been in like one, maybe two scenes when we do see her. So it was cool to have her like kind of recurring in the hatch, trying to figure things out from her perspective. I thought that was nice. Yeah. All right. Well, what are your predictions, Sam?
That's a good question. Well, more people are going to find out about the hatch. That has to be.
Well, I think they already kind of, I don't know how much they know, but everyone knows now because they're sharing the food with them.
Yeah, that's true. They did tell everybody about the hatch already. They just didn't tell them what was down there. But okay. And I guess my prediction is that Ana Lucia and the other survivors of Oceanic Flight 815 had a run-in with either the others or the weird smoke monster security system thing. And one of them got eaten by a polar bear.
Interesting. So basically, the tailies have seen some shit.
Yeah, exactly. They have been through the muck.
Well, we may or may not find out next time, Sam, when we talk about season 2, episode 5, And Found. Get it? Because it's like Lost.
Yes. ...
And Found.
Genius title. I would have saved that though for the very end, the very last episode when they all get off the island. But whatever.
Yeah. And Found, where Michael decides to take matters into his own hands. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, Sun finds herself in a desperate situation.
Uh-oh.
Ominous, I know. But it also gives me hope because we've seen very little Sun this season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she always is a scene stealer, you know? So
Yeah.
even this episode, the little bit she was in, like, it was really emotional.
Mm-hmm.
It was really pulled in. We'll see what Sun's up to next week. And Michael. Michael being Michael. We'll see. So, well, guys, that's it for this time. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Most importantly, share, because sharing is caring.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me at Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch and on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Perfect. Until next time, Sam, get lost.
Get lost.